Hey everyone, Internet PCS book reader here. Today I want to talk about Perfect Blue by Yoshikazu Takeuchi. Satoshi Kon is one of the most legendary figures in the anime industry, known for many things. He's famous for never finishing any of his manga project. He's known for his one and only anime series with that weird opening that Super iPads Wolf made a video about. He is known for that one short film that if you haven't watched yet, you should definitely check out after you finish my video, of course. Please don't leave. But most importantly for our conversation today, he is known for directing some of the best anime movie. If we are talking about anime movie, I can even confidently say that none of the current one we have is at least at the level of Satoshi Kon. There's a reason that movie directors like Darren Aronofsky and Christopher Nolan took some massive inspiration for some of the shots in their movie. Some of his work like The Millennium Actress and Paprika blur the line of reality and fantasy so well that in the latter title Paprika, there are some scenes that made even every frame a painting, a legendary media essays on YouTube cannot find the word to describe some of his cinematography. It is that magical. Well, all of his work is great and you should definitely check them all out if you haven't yet. His most famous one and his work that is most relevant to our conversation today is Perfect Blue. A psychological horror that I would highly recommend if you're a fan of any of A24 movies horror. To oversimplify to oversimplify for now, Perfect Blue is a movie that is telling the story of an idol that have an obsessive stalker. It is legitimately quite a disturbing horror, and many people, including myself, consider it as one of the greatest movie ever made, and by that we don't mean anime movie, but all movies, including ones that is non-animation. But a lot of people are not aware that it is a movie that is based on a novel. This novel, Perfect Blue Complete Metamorphosis, the one that I want to talk about. The story starts with a young girl named Yumiko who are playing in a sandbox, building castle while all her friends have gone home. She's been delaying going back home because her mother has been very angry very often lately, a problem that is quite common in Japan which causes a lot of children to opt to go homeless despite having a home. But it is getting late and the night still scares her despite her knowing the neighborhood very well, so she decided to go back home before finishing her castle. She went through the path she usually takes to go home when she encountered the obviously creepy man with an anime waifu shirt. The guy calls her Ojo-chan and quickly grabbed her, and the last thing she remembers was how helpless she is, how little she can fight back, and how his breath smells like an animal. And that's the last we see of Yuriko. We then go to Kirigoi Mima, an idol who had to get out of her shower because someone is calling her phone late at night at 2 am. She picked it up because she had to. That's kinda the only way to communicate back then before chat was a thing. And it might be her manager telling her about a change in schedule or something, so she picked it up. But it's not. It's a person that was just breathing heavily into the mic, a strange harassment that she had to deal with for more than a week now. She decided to finally confront her in the phone to find out what the creep wants, why he is harassing her, but it seems like the guy on the phone is not just a creep, but a delusional creep. It sounded like the act of talking to me myself is already an ordeal for the guy, but he decided to keep talking. He talks about wanting to save her, wanting to make sure she doesn't go into the wrong path, and that he will come for her for sure, which makes Mima hang up the phone in fear. She talked about the event later that day to her manager, and her manager does show that he was worried that the guy said that he'll come for Mima, but for now there's not much he did. Stalking, especially celebrity stalking, is an issue that was not just common in Japan, although it is common enough to appear on games like Persona 4 and many others. Just a few months ago, Chapel Roans drew a line between her and her fans because of stalking behavior that harassed not just her, but her family. So yeah, it is still quite a common issue. But for now, Mima's immediate concern is not the creepy stalker since he was just a voice on the phone. He has gone past her age of being an idol, an industry that usually are filled with performers under 18 or 16. Even one of her idol competitor, Eri, has been spreading rumor that she is too old to be acting like an innocent underage girl, which her insecurities cause her to hate Eri and hate herself for hating Eri. That's why Mima and her manager Tadeo Koro decided to change her image from the innocent girl that has never even done any gravure swimsuit photo to the series of very sexy, very revealing photography. Tadeo Koro even contacted one of his friends that just got back from being a war correspondent and photography to make sure that the one taking Mima's picture are not a creep. She wanted to change her image to survive in the industry. But an obsessive fan of her really don't want her to change her image. He wants her to stay who she is the way she like it. It's the stalker, of course. The first person who met the stalker is Rumi, Mima's assistant, who met the stalker when she went back to Mima's green room to get something she left behind. The guy just stand there, menacingly, and then gave her a letter before he left through the emergency exit. The Crypt wrote further in the letter about how Mima should change, that he knew better about Mima, knew better about what she should be the way he wanted her to be. It's unhinged enough that you clock in immediately on how dangerous and delusional this man is. And for some reason, Rumi didn't tell anyone, not even security, which was so outrageously unprofessional it took me out of the story really badly. Mima got angry at her, rightfully so, but seeing the Crypt did scare her badly enough not to say anything to anyone. When Mima is consoling her crying assistant, her phone rings, and afraid of picking it up, Volker just stared at the phone while it rings endlessly. On the other side of the phone is the Crypt. He doesn't understand why Mima is not answering her phone like usual since he's delusional and lacks self-awareness. He thinks Mima must be avoiding phone call because her manager keeps disturbing her even this late at night. He's a broken person who doesn't have any connection with anyone besides watching a recording of Mima's performance as an idol, and in order to get himself together, he watched two of Mima's recordings he's been saving. One when she debuted as an idol when she was just a little girl, and the other is her latest recording years past her initial debut when she obviously no longer a little girl. Back in my day, Aya Hirano is the most famous voice actor from Japan, voicing some of the most famous characters in her golden age of voice acting. But on an interview, she opened up that she did voice acting more as a job, which it is a job, and she wanted to do more than just voice acting with her career. She also opened up about her sex life. Then it was found out that the adult woman have had sex with her adult band members, and for some people, these nothing burger are enough to make sure she never again receive another job in voice acting. That was in 2011, and for more than a decade, people are still sending hate mail, making sure that anime studio don't give her any job, and in 2022, she is still getting death threats when she did get a minor role in voice acting. So while what Eri is doing and the way she's doing it might be a bit melodramatic, it is legitimately career ender for Mami if she got the right rumor. And that's why when Tadokoro got the news from Mima and Rumi that the Crypt was in the recording session to hand deliver his letter to Mima, Tadokoro decided not to get the cop involved to avoid making it into a big deal that the public will know. But one day after Mima finished her photography session and went back home to her apartment, a rose and a letter was found in front of her door. The Crypt somehow found out where she lived, maybe through zooming in on the reflection of her eye or something. Tadokoro wanted to get the cops involved since the Crypt has only escalated his threat from the phone call, but Mima wants to avoid getting further stressed and busy with the authority and the news because she wants to focus on the image change of her that will also come out with her next album. So they decided that Tadokoro, who knows a little of judo, will guard her for a while, for now. And it didn't take long until he found someone suspiciously stalking her apartment door. He chased after him when he ran away and managed to subdue the guy, but it's not him. It's the paparazzi that Eri sends to spread rumors about Mima. Paparazzi is the cockroach of the industry, of course you know this. Remember when they tried to make Britney Spears angry on purpose so they can take a picture of her attacking them with an umbrella during her worst moment in life? Remember when they purposely make Tobey Maguire angry by blocking his car so that they can get a picture of him yelling at them? Remember when they killed Lady Diana? That's the kind of person Eri sends to stalk Mima legally. The paparazzi is trying to stalk Mima to find out about her dating life, which is something hella forbidden in Japanese and Korean idol industry, which feels not only illegal but also really stupid for both countries. Considering their population is declining, then these people went, let's market our idols by having them beg people to stay single for the idols. But still, these are not the Crypt they're looking for. The Crypt they're looking for wanted a practice run with a knife on Amy, a moment that he deemed unworthy of the idol title because the incel doesn't like it when women dress like her. He managed to trap her using the photos taken of her when she was having sex, then he skinned her alive to practice what he was doing to do to Mima. At the end of the book, he managed to kidnap Rumi to lure Mima, but both of them managed to escape while he died in the process of their escape. I'll be honest, the book is nowhere near as good as the movie. There is a reason why the movie is said to be only loosely based on the book. None of the characters are that compelling, the latter half part is really boring, and most of the gruesome thing is just for shock factor. The threat doesn't feel like much of a threat because it's not that well written. Every sex scene in the book feels like it's just thrown there to help sell the book. Meanwhile, compared to the movie, the characters are captivating in the movie. Most scenes, including any nudity, feels like they're there for a reason, either to add more to the struggle of the character, or to make the disturbingly voyeuristic aspect of the storytelling feels more queasy and sickening. It is a horror of not only a person losing their mind, but also losing their identity. There's just no comparison between the two of them despite the novel inspiring bits of the movie. I think the book is more for collectors or the fan of the movie that wanted something more out of the title, but other than that, there's not much here for me to recommend. I give this a 2.25. What do you think? Let me know if I missed anything, so leave your thoughts in the comment below and subscribe to the channel. That's about it. See ya.